All right. Hello, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. This is DFS Army's pre-lock show, where we'll go game by game, talk through the plays we like, answer your questions along the way, and or at the end of the show, depending on how things are flowing. Uh, Last night was a little rough, Brandon. It was tough. We talked about it a little bit before the show, but the leverage plays and things like that were crushing it. But everything else was god awful.
Yeah, it's like everybody just decided to take the night off, and then you got the Pelicans being stupid again, playing Misi Moore over Queen, so that definitely didn't help either. And then
Yeah.
Jalen Smith, oh my god.
Yeah, it was ugly. And then the Panthers lost on top of it in terrible fashion. It was just like, who wants to hurt me more? Like, I was hoping at least one of those two things would come through for me, but
Yeah.
it's a new slate, a nice 3-gamer. I like this slate a decent amount. I'm sharing my screen today. I'm doing 150 lineups. Brandon is doing a 20 max, and so you'll see my chaos of playing a lot of men's and some maxes on some players to try and get a nice mix. And then listen to Brandon with a little bit more of the calmer approach of not losing your mind and acting like a crazy person. How do you feel about this slate, though?
Good overall. We have a ton of value, even
Yeah.
more with the Wizards news. So I do feel a little better that we get to mix in some of those guys because when I first started doing my lines, it was just
It was
straight
rough.
Sixers, like nothing but Sixers.
Yeah,
So always good to have a little mixture in there.
I agree. And we also have pretty much all of the news too. There's a
Yeah.
couple of questionable Q tags, but it's nice to have a pretty clear picture at this point. We'll take it slow today. It's good to see everyone in the chat. Charles, hey, nice to have you as a YouTube member, man. I would say the biggest benefit is probably being able to watch Kevin on Saturdays for the pre-lock show, or not pre-lock, but for the Players Club.
Players
There you
Club.
go,
Yep.
Players Club. Well, he will actually like make lineups live for single entries and things of that sort. But if you want access to like the domination station, the Discord, and just kind of seeing how we go about this process, link is in the description. Feel free to use the promo code that's going across the screen for a 25% off discount there. We're doing that. And, we don't do these discounts too often. So it's awesome that we're doing it now this time of year. So, yeah, not bad. And then Cujo, good to see you, man. Danny, I see it. We pretty much show you how to use the optimizer on these shows. If you like controlling your exposures more, like me, you can follow that. Brandon, we pretty much alternate days. You can follow his approach on how to use the DS as well. And then we also have another coach who is in the Discord who has settings that he follows every slate too, where he's had success too. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use the DS here. Annoyed, good to see you. Jules, everybody, Buckeyes. We'll get to that one. Cedric, appreciate you, man. If you all could like and subscribe, we'll be good to go. Let's get to it. I'm tired of talking. All right, we have the Hawks first going up against the Wizards. Highest spread on the slate and the highest total on the slate. For the Hawks, they have this beautiful matchup against the Wizards, and only Trae Young is out, who's been out for a while. Who do you like here? What are you doing in the DS, Brandon?
Yeah, it's hard not to like this team. Tonight, they're going against the Wizards, who are literally the worst team in the league right now. They are 1-15 and currently on a 14-game losing streak. So that just tells you how bad they are and how much we love to attack them. They bleed points everywhere. So as far as who I like, I think the obvious is Jalen Johnson. He will be a core play. This dude just continues to smash game after game, especially since Trae has been out. He's just stepped up into the superstar role here. He's had a very safe floor. I keep waiting for that game to where he kind of comes back down to earth, but it's just not happening. He's playing close to 40 minutes, and his usage and points per minute numbers are just kind of off the charts. So just going to keep playing him until it doesn't make sense. Porzingis, I do like as well. I typically don't like him as much when Okongwu is back in the mix, which he is. But again, this matchup is as good as it gets, and still a solid price and another great points per minute guy. So didn't do anything there, but I am getting around 25%. So as long as I stay between that and 30%, I'll be fine with that. Alexander Walker is another guy who's stepped up with Trey out. He's another usage guy on this team. Great price. Didn't have to do anything there. He's showing up right at 30%. And then Dyson is the only other guy I wanted to force in. Great defender on this team who does a little bit of everything. He isn't as consistent, but he has 50-point upside, so definitely want some of him in this matchup as well. Reese Shea, if you're doing 150, I guess I wouldn't mind a like 5% min on him, but didn't get there, especially with the other value that we have available. And then Okongwu, I don't target unless Porzingis is out. So he's a little too expensive for me.
And we go all in when he is out. But until then, we're just kind of taking more of a wait and see approach. It's weird. I like other games or teams on this slate a little bit more, just in general, when it comes to the amount of players I'm playing. But the guys I do have exposure to are just in really good spots. And so that's why I'm really focusing on them. My approach here is Jalen Johnson. He shows up in a ton of your lineups. If you're running 150, when I did my early run, he showed up in 99% of my lineups. There are other studs I like on this slate, and I didn't need 99% of Jalen Johnson. So I capped him at 60%. I'll still be slightly over the field, but I'm not, devoting my entire life to him in this spot. And then I have a 40% min on Kristaps Porzingis. Scary. You never love trusting Porzingis because his minutes can get a little wonky. But at this price tag in this matchup, he's been more aggressive this year, which I'd like to see. That's why his points per minute are higher. His usage rates are slightly higher. So as long as he's playing, he's someone I want to be over the field on. So I have a 40% min on him. And then we talk about it every slate. He has had the highest increase in usage with Trae Young out. That keeps him in the running, especially since he's one of the guys who sees the most minutes. And so I have a 23% min on him. And I'm going to keep that. I will be under the field here, but hopefully this is just enough to keep me dangerous. If he goes off, there's other guards and just other plays I like a little bit more at better price tags or just in cleaner spots where you don't have Jalen Johnson, who's just dominating usage for this team. And I do understand the Dyson Daniels play. I understand the Reese J play. I think they're both solid. They just didn't make the cut for me today. So we'll see how that goes. This is a 3-gamer. If you're missing out on one of those pieces, you might be in for a rough day. So, can't play everybody. So that's just the stand I'm taking. And then when we look at exposures, Jalen Johnson right now is my highest owned exposure guy. Porzingis is showing up where I have him. And then Nickeil Alexander-Walker is showing up still in 27% of lineups, even with that min. So I'm still pretty close to field weight exposure there. My preference is DK over FanDuel. I started off on FanDuel, Danny, but they don't like me. They just don't like where I live or something because they always just think I'm a robot. You play on FanDuel sometimes, though, don't you, Brandon?
From time to time, but I definitely prefer DraftKings. I just like the app in general better, and the way you build lineups, the construction is better for me as well.
Yeah, I get it. Wagwan, what's up, Kevin? Good to see you, man. It seems like Atlanta might be better without Young. I've always said he's just not a great defender, and you can always pick on them when Trae Young is playing. So I don't think you're wrong. It sounds crazy, but I think you're right. What do you think? Are we wrong here, Brandon?
I mean, as looking at what they're doing now, it's hard to argue against it.
Yeah, it is. Balls deep, man. It's Vit with high minutes. He shouldn't see as many minutes tonight just because they're pretty healthy, like Porzingis, Reese Shea, Kennard's playing. So that really just kind of lowers his minute ceiling for me. But do you feel differently?
I mean, he should still see somewhere around 20 minimum, but he's 4,900 and we have better value, in my opinion. So not playing somebody like him with low usage and not the greatest points per minute guy either.
Yeah, we'll have our spots again in the future. Ballaholic, you did miss the Derek Queen conversation. It's just coaches being stupid. Like, I don't know what else we can say about that. It almost feels like they're throwing, but why would you fire your head coach if you're not tanking? Like, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. But we're not coaches. Anyway, we have the Wizards side of this game, which is also pretty interesting to me, primarily because Washington has guys out. Keyshawn George is out with an illness. That's a nice boost to Kispert. We saw him start last time out. He got hot. So he's someone who is going to see a bump, and then really just a nice increase to all of the starters here. And then Trey Johnson and Marvin Bagley are out as well. Moves the needle for Trey Johnson, moves the needle a little bit for like your weird guys like Carrington, Whitmore, Kispert, Bagley. We've seen this before. Vucevic has a little boost here as long as they don't randomly decide to play small. Who do you like here, Brandon? Anyone stand out for you in particular?
Yeah, quite a few guys here. This is where a good chunk of our value will come from tonight. So didn't really do anything specific here. I'll start with Sar. He was the only one manually forced in at 20%. We've been talking about Sar all season. He's in great form. Has the highest upside on this team. Usage is great. So want to have some exposure to him tonight with it being a smaller slate. And then as far as these cheap guys, I'll have a decent mixture. Right now, I'm getting more Corey Kispert and Justin Champagnie. I'm getting majority of them with the guys that are out that you mentioned. Pretty much all these wings will benefit the most. So Kispert, I know, is popping a lot. He played 37 minutes last game, so don't know if he'll get that much again, but definitely when his shot is falling in, he gets hot, they tend to ride him a bit longer. So hopefully that'll be the case again here. And then Champagnie is just dirt cheap, almost min price. He should play close to 30 minutes and can do a little bit of everything too. So he makes all the sense in the world. And then we've seen Whitmore have solid games recently. He probably has the most upside out of these cheapies, to be honest. I think last game or the game before he scored close to 40 fantasy points. So definitely love Whitmore as well. And then Bub Carrington, super volatile. I'd probably say one of the more volatile guys out of the cheaper guys, but he will see a lot of minutes and, again, is almost dirt cheap at min price, so we'll have some exposure there as well. Specific exposures, I'm at 80% Kispert, 80% Champagnie, 45 Whitmore, 30 on Sar, and then 15 on Carrington, 10 on Koulibaly, and 10 on Middleton.
Yeah, let's have a real honest conversation about this Washington team. We love seeing them on a slate because we can pick on them. The tough part is they have a deep ass rotation. They play everybody. And that's why on a lot of these slates, you've seen Bilal, you've seen Kispert, you've seen Whitmore, you've seen Vucevic, you've seen Champagnie pop randomly. And it's because they really will just ride the hot hand. And on a 3-game slate, if you're 20 maxing, I wouldn't have all the men's that I do, because I do think of some of these guys just aren't guys we'll have to force because they'll be a little bit lower owned. If you're 150 maxing, I do think you need to mix and match here, just because any of these guys can go off. I do have favorites, though, and guys that I'm prioritizing more than others, and some guys that I'm just not going to have as much exposure to and limit that a little bit. Starting off, Alexander Starr. He is a leverage play for me tonight. I have a 40% min on him. Just really like what he's been doing, and he's one of the few people who do have consistent minutes here, and so he'll be a priority for me. CJ McCollum, the matchup's tougher than it looks on paper, but I do have a 20% min on him. With George out, I do think his minutes floor will go up a bit, and so that makes me feel honestly pretty solid about CJ at 5,900. So I like him a decent amount in that spot. Next up, we have Bilal Kalabali. I have a 13% min on him, just slightly over the field. He's another guy in that 5K range. I trust his usage a bit more than some of the guys below him in price. Chris Middleton, man. In the year of 2025, I can't believe we're still talking about him, but here we are. And with all the guys they have out, I do think his minutes floor is also a little bit safer. So I have a 17% min there. Not the highest usage rate guy, but not as low as like a Champagny. So at 5K, he's still worth being in the mix, but he's far from a favorite or anything like that. Next up, we have Kispert, and I'll put Champagny in the same conversation here. Both of these guys see a boost, but their ownership's a little outrageous for me with how volatile they are. So I have a 50% exposure maximum on Kispert. I just don't want him showing up more than that. And then Champagny, I'm going to put right now I have 50, but I think I'm going to go lower. I'm going to do a 40% exposure maximum, just kind of forcing myself to be under the field. I'm not Xing these guys out, so if they go off, I can still have a chance to take some shit down, but this ownership, it just doesn't make sense to me to be over on guys I don't trust when I understand the situation with Washington that any of these guys could be the guy. And then Cam Whitmore, he was showing up by himself for me earlier, but that's probably not the case. He's only showing up in about 9% of my lineups. He's someone that I am willing to force exposure to, so I'm going to put a 40% min on him, just kind of adding him into the mix. I like being a little bit over a guy like Cam Whitmore over the guy who just went off recently in Kispert. So, I could be wrong, but I think it's an interesting leverage spot there. And then Vucevic, I have a 13% min on. He's just a big who can definitely get there, especially with guys like Bagley out. He's just slightly more viable. We have seen games where they do go small and then he doesn't see the minutes he needs to exceed value, but 9 times out of 10, he does get the run. And against guys like Okongwu and Porzingis, I do think his minutes are relatively safe here too as a backup to Sarr. And then Carrington, I have a 25% min on. Another value option that I just think is viable and I like having exposure to. So I have a 25% min there. So like I said, really mixing and matching, only making guys like Sarr the real leverage spots and hoping everything else works out there. So first game was a really interesting one. I like it a good amount. Let's see. Annoyed Squidward, I see your comment. We don't really do a lot of prop conversations or anything around that, but do you have a King of the Court favorite, Brandon? I don't.
Nope, I do not.
Madden Data 3 said, if you're doing 20 max and 150 max, would you change settings and minimums in between running lineups? Yeah, not settings, but minimums are different for me between like 20 maxes and 150. I think we're the same here, but 20 maxes, I probably have close to half the amount of mins I have for 150 maxes. And then they're also usually slightly higher by like 5 to 10%. What do you do differently though, Brandon?
Yeah, I actually have 2 different browsers open and run them separately. Just to your point, minimums are completely different between the two. And if you notice, just from what we've gone over so far, Josiah is doing 150, I'm doing 20, and you can kind of see where more of the min percents are. So definitely don't have as many as I normally do.
Yeah. And moving forward, probably on Tuesdays and Thursdays when we have smaller slates, if I don't have like someone else like Brandon who's also doing 20 maxes, I'll try and cover both. All right, next up we have the Magic going up against the Sixers. Honestly, probably my favorite game on the slate in a weird way. For the Magic, of course, Paolo is out. Goga, everyone's favorite player, is questionable. And then Mo Wags has been out for a while now. For me, we haven't really seen Franz have a ceiling game with Paolo out yet. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen, though. And especially on a smaller slate against a banged-up Sixers team, this is one of those spots I like to take a shot on. So I have a 17% min on Franz. For Desmond Bane, I have a 10% min on him right now. He's another guy that just oftentimes goes overlooked. I think our ownership's a little high on him. I think I'll be closer to field weight with that 10% min. Suggs shows up a ton by himself. But right now, just with the mins I have, he's showing up in 33% of my lineups, which should be over the field, which I like. We have it closer to field weight. Wendell Carter Jr. is going to be a leverage play for me tonight. No Joel Embiid. Drummond's not known as the best defender. I have a 30% min on him, someone I really want to highlight in this spot. Anthony Black, we've seen what he can do. Only 5,100. Just want to match the field on him there. His price tag leaves a lot to be desired. Like, he's priced appropriately for me. So I'm not overly excited about that play, but just want to have some exposure. And then Tristan De Silva. Man, I never really like playing this guy, but just with a lot of the things I look at metrically, he was worth me getting close to field weight exposure. So I put a 12% min on him there. How are you feeling about the Magic? Do you like these guys, or are you more of a pass on them?
Yeah, I wish I liked them as much as you did. I definitely love Jalen Suggs. He's currently a core play for me at 60% ownership or exposure. Philly bleeds a lot of points to guards right now, and Suggs has been pretty solid so far. He usually gets between 30 to 40 fantasy points per game, and this should be a faster pace spot for him to where we can see a ceiling game. So love him quite a bit tonight. I consider Black, but I think we have better options around his price range. He's been okay. We don't see too much ceiling from him, but he's been hovering around 30 fantasy points per game. So definitely viable. I'm still on the fence about Wendell. He's a little too inconsistent for me to feel the need to force him in. I will say if Goga gets rolled out, I might throw like a 15% min on him just because that'll solidify his role in minutes even more at the 5. And I do like his price. So he could be somebody who's somewhat sneaky on a 3-gamer. And then I'm just going to continue to fade Franz and Bane. They're just still a little too expensive for the little that they show selling games. So I keep saying it every slate. It's helped me more than it has hurt me. So I'm just going to continue that trend on both of those guys. And I think De Silva is a viable option too. But again, I think we have better plays in his price range as well.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. I do think we have a lot of really good, viable options in the other games on this slate, but I do think that's why these guys are a little unowned here on this 3-gamer, which, will always get my attention. Nezzy, what's up, man? Congrats on that single entry win last night. Magic need to be investigated. Yeah, that's just real. That's just as true as it should be. Like, teams shouldn't be able to do that. Next up, we have the Sixers. And this is where things get a little off the rails because Joel Embiid was ruled out earlier today. Paul George is out. And that was on top of BJ Edgecombe already being out, Kelly Oubre and Bona getting ruled out. What we're basically looking at is Drummond should have all of the minutes in the world that he can handle with Bona and Embiid out. And with a lot of their wings out, it makes a lot of these other players and starters even more interesting tonight. Matchup against the Magic isn't as scary as it used to be, but it's still not as obvious as picking on the Wizards. For me, I am going heavy on this team, just like I like this game a lot. So Maxey is someone I want to make a priority in a matchup that I think is going to just force him to do a lot, because a lot of the guys in this game, they're not known for being the best scorers. So I want to make him a priority. I have a 45% min on him. Drummond, I have a 30% min on, but he was showing up by himself. I just wanted to make sure he didn't fall. And yeah, he's showing up in 44% of my lineups. Barlow is someone that isn't known for being a great points per minute player, but I still like having exposure to him because I think he'll just see a lot more minutes than he typically does. So it's a gross play just knowing the kind of guy he is. He can go out there and do a lot of nothing for the 20 to 25 minutes he's out there, but I still like having exposure to him. Watford is someone else I expect them to use a lot as a big. And so I have a 20% min on him. I think he's going to see a lot of ownership, but I didn't mind being under the field. He's just someone I wanted in the mix of value. Justin Edwards, I did absolutely nothing to. Call it bias. Call it he just has a really low usage rate and rarely does anything. But he was someone I just didn't want to make a priority. He pops for most people, but with some of the other men's I have, he's only showing up in 5% of my lineups. So like I said, you can't play everybody. He's one of those guys that's just not going to be a priority for me. Jared McCain is a leverage play for me today. I think at 3,800, he's really cheap. We've seen Jared McCain go off before in the past when they don't have as many scoring options. And with Kelly O, VJ Edgecombe, Joel Embiid all out, and we've seen McCain's minutes start to trend upwards, this is a spot I want to be over the field on. So leverage spot for me there. And then Jabari Walker, just a turd, 10K or 3K minimum guy. I have a 10% min on him. Just a value play that it just wouldn't shock me if he sees a little bit more run than people expect. But he is a low usage guy, low points per minute guy. So he could easily have less than 10 points tonight, fantasy points. So he's not someone I would make a priority unless you are like 150 maxing. What are your thoughts here, Brandon?
Yeah, I love this team as well. Start with Drummond, one of my favorite plays on this team. When we know his minutes are pretty much secure, we'll go super heavy on him. So no different tonight. Love his price is 6,500. Great points per minute guy. So he will be a core play for me tonight. And currently have 70%. Have a min on Tyrese Maxey. He's another guy we've been talking about all season long so far. Playing MVP basketball. Has one of the highest upsides on the slate. He's getting pretty close to Luka's upside too. Like we've seen him put up like a 80-something point fantasy game not too long ago. So definitely love him. And actually at 45% even with that 40% min. So definitely love that. Grimes, just with all these guys out, specifically Edgecombe and Oubre, I definitely want exposure there. He should have decent usage tonight, and at 6,100, he has shown that upside in the past as well. Watford and Edwards, I'm pretty indifferent on and don't feel overly passionate about either one of them. I will have them in the mix, but I do have Watford capped at 30% and Edwards capped at 20%. So didn't want to go too crazy on them, but I at least have enough to where if they do something, I won't be completely dead. And then Jared McCain is probably my favorite value play on this team for the reasons you said. We haven't gotten to see it yet this season just because he's been out for majority of it and they're slowly ramping him up. But if you go back to last year before he got hurt, he was looking like one of the best rookies out of everybody. So with all the guys that they're missing, I do think they continue to ramp him up. And at 3,800, he's good enough to be the best value play tonight. So didn't have to do anything with him, and I'm actually getting 40%. So double the field there, which I love. And
Damn.
I did not get to Barlow or Walker, but definitely understand it if you're playing 150.
Yeah, these dart throws on a 3-gamer, that's what I live for. So I'm here for it. Man, I hope McCain stays below 20% ownership. I'm scared now. I hope he's not popping everywhere. But, man, I love that play. So we'll see what happens. Tavius, second place 2 nights in a row. You're making money off of us, man. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, be civil. Can't go too crazy. All right. last game on the slate, we have Clippers going up against the Lakers. 6.5 point spread, total at 229.5. Nothing too wild. For the Clippers, they have Bogdan Bogdanovic listed as questionable. That's really the only piece of news that we're missing out on here. If he ends up getting ruled out, you see small boosts, which are still important on a 3-game slate, to guys, really all of the turds here. So like Dunn, Batum, Chris Paul, Kobe Sanders, like all these guys would just see a boost if Bogdan ends up getting ruled out. Who do you like here, Brandon?
Yeah, just a couple guys for me. Have a 20% min on James Harden. I'm sad to see his ownership is creeping up. I think he was like around 11% when I first started building one. So he was going to be a somewhat of a leverage play, but not quite at 16%. But I think he can be, especially if you're doing single entry, if you're trying to get different, I think he can definitely be sneaky. He can break any given slate. And Lakers, they're playing well overall this season, but they're typically not a team that I'm scared of attacking defensively. So love Harden tonight. And then Zubac, I have a 15% min on. I wish he was a bit cheaper, but with 8 and out and them struggling at the 5, I think Zoo can smash at this spot. He reminded everybody what kind of upside he has last game and put up over 60 fantasy points. So definitely think he can do it in this spot again. And then I wish I could play John Collins because the Lakers bleed a lot of points to the power forward position, but Collins just has not been that guy at all this season. I will say if Bog gets rolled out, that might help him a little more, but I didn't get there. And then everyone else is too gross.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of the other news we have, this is just a hard team to look at. When we kicked off the slate, Harden was my favorite pay-up option, but I only have a 20% min on him, which, doesn't really equate. But it's really just because the more I've dug into the slate, just the other studs just look a bit better. I have a 20% min on Harden, so I'll be over the field, but in comparison to the other studs, which is really how I'm thinking about this 3-gamer, and when I think about how my lineups are all kind of coming together, he's going to be at the bottom of the list for me. Unfortunately, just because I do see this game playing out a little bit slower, even though we know what he can do. Also, there's no injuries that are boosting things for him, so 20% min is going to have to be it. Couldn't look at Kawhi here. He just didn't stand out enough for me. Zubac, I have a 7% min on. Oops. All right. Zubac, I have a 7% min on. I think our ownership's a little high on him, but I still like having exposure. I think this will be a little bit closer to field weight. I do like your 15% min, Brandon. I think Zubac is in a really good spot, but I'm already over the field on guys like Carter and Sar. I can't force exposure to every big I like. So I just hoping to be around field weight on Zubac. John Collins, I have a 10% min on. I like him a bit more when he does just play the 5, but we haven't seen that too much. His price tag is really the main thing that's keeping him interesting for me, and just the fact that no one's playing him on a 3-gamer for completely logical reasons. John Collins has been absolutely terrible so far this entire season. So it's really just me taking a shot on someone who maybe is more wishful thinking at this point. So 10% min it is, and hopefully it'll come through. And then, like you said, I can't look at any of these other guys. I might consider late swapping if Bogdan gets ruled out. Like you said, maybe force a little bit more Bogdan, Collins, Sanders, probably as far as I would go. Maybe just whoever else the DS has popping, but not my favorite spot when it comes to value. Situation's pretty similar for me on the Lakers side of this game. Uncle Cheese, you're like my spirit animal. I get it, man. The last couple of slates, I felt like I'm killing it. I'm like fighting for first place. Do I have a chance? And then that last game comes, and I have exposure to the late games. It's just obviously not enough. So Hopefully that doesn't happen tonight. I'm forcing exposure, trying to make that not happen, but we'll see. Flip to flop, man. You have fun with Goga. Good luck, man. Enjoy that. All right, for LA tonight, only DeAndre Ayton is out, like you said. So I think we're expecting Hayes to start in this spot for him, but nothing else really changed. What are you doing with the Lakers?
Yeah, this team is pretty easy DFS wise to target when Luka, Reeves, and LeBron are healthy and playing. Those are the three guys that are only in consideration for me. So, Luka, I'm matching the field at 30%. We have a ton of value. He has the highest upside on the slate, so definitely want exposure there. I could not get to LeBron. I'm still waiting to see him show a little bit more of a ceiling. His two games that he's played in so far, he's reached just right under 40 fantasy points. So at 9K, I just didn't get there in my 20 max. But I did put a 15% min on Reeves. Usually when Luka and LeBron are in, I avoid Reeves, especially when he's at this price, but he's still getting it done. Last game, I'm pretty sure he put up at least 40 fantasy points. And then another thing that kind of got me on it was the Clippers bleed a lot of points to the shooting guard position. So I think there's still a world where Reeves can do really well tonight. So definitely wanted to take that chance on a smaller slate. So pretty much just Luka and Reeves for me.
It's so interesting that we do view this a little bit differently. Doncic, I'm with you. I'm playing him. I have a 25% min on him. I do think I do think he'll hopefully be a little bit lower owned than 30%, just with some of the other options. So once again, just hoping that's a little bit more me being closer to field weight exposure. And then I'm taking the shot on LeBron. Something about, we used to always say it, LeBron in primetime games. Like, that's when I'm going to have exposure to him. Last game, he played 34 minutes. So I feel like I can't say we have to trust the coaches because I just can't do that anymore. But you would assume that means the minute limit is gone. And so once we get past that minutes limit, now it's like, all right, let's show some explosiveness. Let's like really start to dominate some of these games. And so I have a 17% min on LeBron, hoping for that. And then I'm hoping for like the inverse of Austin Reeves. The Clippers have struggled against guards recently. I'm hoping that's what helps Doncic out. But, man, I just can't take the shot on Reeves at 8,100. The 45 points, if he can do that again, like that definitely will pay off that price tag. But you know me, once someone does well, I'm like, I don't want it anymore. I didn't get it that time, so I'm not going to follow it. But you were on Reeves that night, weren't you? I think you were.
I think so. I don't remember.
Yeah. Hey, Tim, they're on the West Coast. I mean, 8 p.m. is probably still pretty close to bronze. But, it's fine. He'll be awake. He'll be awake for this. It's 11 p.m. primetime game. Let's make it happen. So 70% min there. And then I didn't get to Hayes at all. Did you?
Nah, we have better value.
Yeah, that was my point too. So that's pretty much the slate. I like it. It's definitely one of those where I like, if there's a slate where you allow me to get weird and it's not going to completely ruin my chances, I'm always going to feel better about those slates. I don't think we missed. There might have been a couple of questions early on we might have missed, but I think we're probably good to go. Buckeye said, anyone like Harden as a pivot off of Maxey? What do you think, Brendan?
I mean, I like Maxey more, of course, but like I said when we covered that game, I think Harden is you can play him. I think he's a viable pivot off of any of the studs tonight.
Yeah. I landed on having more Maxey than Harden, so I'll say I don't think you really need to pivot off of him, but if you just want to get different off of the Maxey chalk, that's always a solid strategy to me. Agreed. Flip the flop. Let's get this money tonight. Danny, man, we'll love to see you join tomorrow. I think it'll just be me tomorrow for the pre-lock show, but it'll be good. Ballaholic going with the maxi core play. I see you, man. Balls to the wall. All right, yeah. Oh, Deep Ball said 2 core single entry plays. Who are yours? Like, who are your 2 single entry plays, Brandon?
Still have to build mine, but I've mentioned quite a few core plays, but I'll just mention my top 2 exposed, Jalen Johnson and Andre Drummond.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try and make some lineups with Jalen Johnson and Tyrese Maxey. I'll let you know how well that actually ends up working for me at the end of the night. But those are 2 priorities for me. And then the Sixers value is pretty much what I'll be building around primarily. So that's going to be everything. Like I said, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll have tournament tactics for the NFL at noon tomorrow. Fun fact, I don't think that's come out yet. And then we'll be back Friday after Thanksgiving. So hope everyone, well, it's not time for Thanksgiving. I'll say that tomorrow. But anyway, have a good one, y'all. Good luck. Reach out in the Discord if you have any questions. Peace out. Bye.